Right. Next one we're going to move into is very simple movements. Why is simple movements good? Because simple movements, body's designed to move. Really cool. Also, simple movements can get into those areas for relaxation that we can't get into through, because I don't know if anybody is like me. If I want to relax my hand and I'm going to go, "Hey, hand, I want you to relax." First thing it does is like clench up. And it's like, why are you doing that? Come on, hand, I want you to relax. It's like, nope, I'm not going to relax now. And it's taken me a long time from kind of doing yoga, years now, to be able to just kind of go, and most of it comes from weirdly from teaching, because because if you're in a room full of people and they've all got their eyes on you, and like you're saying, like, relax your shoulders, but my shoulders were still up here. Everybody's noticing that. So like when I started to learn to teach yoga, it became easier for me to learn to relax my shoulders, because I was aware that there's like 20 pairs of eyes looking at me. Like, but movement can be very, very calming and very, very a very good way to ground ourselves and become part of our own body, because we're moving this thing that we this vehicle that we go through the world in. It can also be very good if we're feeling like, I want to sleep but I can't sleep because of something. Movement is always a good thing, because A, it can be boring, B, it tires us out a little bit, C, it brings us into the body, it makes us focus on an actual tangible thing rather than something that is in here. And it can be a very easy precursor then to kind of going, it's not like you're doing something where you have to like put it away or take your running shoes off and come inside and have a shower. It's just something small that you're doing, and like, okay, I can go straight to sleep without any kind of preamble. So let's start off with some very simple movements. And the first one I want to play with is cat exercise one. And if you've done yoga with me before, then you've done cat exercise one. But I'm going to talk you through it, because this one is a really great way. And we're lying down when we do it. So here we go. Ugh. With this one, the weird thing that you want to be doing, it's not like lying down like the Shavasana. Your knees are bent here. So your knees are caving in on one another. They can be as bent or as unbent as you want, sort of thing. If you're lucky enough and you have bolsters at home or big cushions, then you could put a cushion or a big bolster underneath the knees and have the legs relaxing on that as well. Same rules apply as before. Heads relaxed, shoulders are relaxed, elbows are relaxed, hands are relaxed, hips are relaxed. You take a breath in. On that breath in, you lift your belly button up towards the sky. You're making the curve of your low back bigger. On an exhale, you're letting that curve come back down to normal. Inhale, you're lifting your belly button up towards the sky. Exhale, you're letting the curve of your low back come back down. It can be hard for some people to tune into this movement. Some people feel that this is a rocking the pelvis forwards and backwards movement. That helps them tune into that low back. Other people like to put their hands or maybe their thumbs into their low back so they can feel that area moving. But the key is on the inhale, you're lifting the belly button up and you're making that curve in the low back a little bit bigger or a lot bigger depending on your low back. And on the exhale, you're letting it come back down to normal. You're not trying to crush your curve to the floor. You're not trying to press the low back in. It's just letting it come back down. So on an inhale, it comes up. And on an exhale, you're letting it go. And every time you feel like your mind wanders from this very simple movement, bring it back to this simple movement. And then feel into this simple movement. And I always feel with this that I can sort of tell when I get into that place of being a little bit more relaxed, because this movement takes less effort. For me anyway, you might be different. You might feel this working in a way like, oh yeah, my shoulders are more relaxed, or my head feels quieter. or I feel like I'm sinking deeper into the mat. It's all these different little cues. So I would encourage you to explore this movement and then feel within yourself what is it that makes you feel like this movement is working quite well for me. This I've There's something freeing about it. Make that the last one you're doing, coming back to a normal breath pattern. Another quite releasing pose that you can again do before kind of going to sleep, or even as a grounding movement, is a twist. There's a lying down twist. Twists can be quite extreme when we're kind of doing yogas and when we're a little bit warmed up, but when we're kind of like getting ready for sleep, then you want to make these as kind of small as possible. So what I always kind of do is I bring my knees in towards my chest, which is on its own accord quite a nice little move. It's a fetal position. You're bringing your knees in towards the chest. And then I take my knees over to one side. Now, maybe my whole body turns to that side, and it's almost like I'm lying down on my side. Maybe the top shoulder is rolling back a little bit. So I've got like a little bit of a twist going on, or a little bit more of a twist going on. If you're like somebody who wants to feel the twist, you can maybe turn it so that both your shoulder blades are on the floor. With these twists, especially when we're trying to relax here, the key, I think, is to keep it in that place where you can breathe quite naturally and normally. And it doesn't feel like, it's a struggle to stay in this position. So maybe you're not going as deeply as you would normally in a twist in the class. Twists are really good for down regulating and getting into that place of maybe those areas that aid relaxation. And one of the reasons for that is that when we breathe in, there's more pressure in the belly. And so we breathe out more fully, and it's almost like a sigh. And realizing that it's okay to sigh. Sighing is a signal to our own nervous system and to the nervous systems of those around us that it's safe. It feels okay to close the eyes. You can close the eyes. If you like to have a focus on your breath, you can bring your hands onto the belly or the hands onto the side of the ribs. And if you're going to twist one way, you might as well twist the other. Bring the knees up to the middle. Bring your knees up to the chest. And then twist in the opposite direction. Let the knees go over in the opposite direction. And depending on your sleeping arrangements, these are the moves that you could do while you're in bed. Or maybe you've got a little space next to your bed with your yoga mat on that you can kind of like go on and do some things before you kind of like go to bed. Or maybe you can set up your yoga mat in a different room. Roll over into your favorite side, and we'll sit up for a couple of little more moves. I added these in. I added these sitting up ones here after lying down, so we just don't all fall asleep. Two that are really good for, again, calming and very simple moments. First is arm sweeps. So you sit in whatever position feels comfortable for you. You know, take one arm and almost feel like you're throwing seeds on the floor. You're just throwing seeds on the floor with one arm. It's a very simple rotation of the arm. And people always kind of like get into this. Should I be doing it with the breath? Or where's my breathing in this? Or how much should I be doing? There's no right or wrong with this at all. It's just this movement. You're making this movement your own. Maybe you want to do a little flourish on it, like a wrist flourish, or maybe you're going to go a big circle. Well, maybe you're doing a little circle. Focusing on the movement. And if you find yourself that you've like your mind's wandered off and this movement's happening, but your like brain is somewhere else, come back to the movement. And then if you still feel like you want to do some more movement, you do some with the other side. But here's the thing with these movements: is if like halfway through your twist, you're feeling like I'm ready for sleep now, then don't worry that you haven't done the other side. Just come back to just go to sleep, and that's because that's the purpose of it. Another movement that I kind of like here is the seated cat cow version of cat cow because it's quite down regulating. You can do this sitting down on the floor. You can also do this sitting in a chair or on a sofa as well. My chairs are all kind of like pulled away, so I don't do. But basically, hands move onto the knees. On an inhale, you pull the chest gently forward, and on an exhale, push the chest back. Maybe the head dips down. Inhale, relaxing the belly. Exhale, going back. Now, again, this is a small movement. I'm probably exaggerating it in kind of like what I'm doing here because otherwise you just be seeing me sit up. There's a little bit of an exaggeration. But what this isn't is like this movement, like going really fast. Now, it's a very slow, gentle movement. And we're focusing on the movement. And if you find that your breath and your movement have sort of disconnected, it's fine. You can always either bring the two back into the sync, or you can just go, do you know what? I'm going to go with what my body wants to do here. Back into an upright position. And the last one we're going to work with here is the forward bend. Now, it's not like a forward bend like we think of like when we're like in yoga and we're all like warmed up and flexible. It's a very gentle forward bend. And again, we're using the knees as support here. So forward bend might be just gently leaning forward with a little bit of pressure, the elbows onto the knees. You might want to let the head go if that feels good. Doesn't feel great for everybody, but if it feels good for you, you can let the head relax. If it feels good to get into a little bit of a deeper one, so that your hands are maybe lolling down, or your hands are on the floor. If you're on if you're on the floor and your hands can touch the floor, it's good. Grounding your hands on the floor is always a good feeling. This little spot in the back of the head where the head and the neck join there, you want to let that relax if possible. And if this position feels good, but it feels uncomfortable, then a nice thing to add to this, I can't add to it because I don't have a blanket. But if you have a blanket or a cushion or a pillow, is that you can hug the blanket or a cushion or pillow and come into this forward bend. So you're in this fetal position, hugging something. I'm having to hug myself here, but that works as well. This idea of forward bend, a little bit of a hug, shoulders coming forwards, hugging in towards the chest, a little bit of a fetal position. This is a good position to sort of doze off in if you've got something big to hold on to, like a bolster or a cushion or a blanket or something. And then when you feel like you've done enough in this position, always from forward bends, I always like to come out of them quite slowly. So there's no rush at all. Simple movements.